Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? As OTAs get underway for the Saints today, and really around the NFL for a lot of teams, it's interesting as the sort of collective national media and people that cover the NFL and write about the NFL are using that as a launching point to sort of recalibrate the league and expectations and perception and things like that. And Peter King, who does Football Morning in America over at NBC Sports and Pro Football Talk, has his updated, you can call them power rankings if you want, just ranking all the teams in the NFL, 1 to 32. And I'm not going to bury the lead here. Peter King has the Saints as a playoff team. In his Football Morning in America, Peter King has the New Orleans Saints as the 11th best team in the NFL. I'll read what he has written here. He says, "Strange that I like the Saints to be perhaps a win better in 2022 than 21, even though the brain of Sean Payton will be in a Fox studio on Sundays instead of finalizing a game plan for Jameis Winston." He writes, "I remember Winston pledging allegiance to Payton last offseason, being so excited to play for him. Now he's going to have to channel that affection into offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael, who will be the play designer and caller for the first time in his Saints coaching career." That's not exactly true. Both, maybe, but he has called plays before. He writes, "They'll miss Payton more than people think. One wise NFL person told me last week. I tend to agree, but there is an offensive salve. How many teams can line up in a 3-receiver set with the potential explosiveness of Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave? Not many. Winston will have a playoff receiving core to lean on every week." And that was Peter King in his Football Morning in America, ranking the Saints as the 11th best team in the NFL in his most recent rankings. I will run through the rest of the rankings here in just a quick second, but there's one thing that I think is a very obvious omission, and that's Peter King didn't mention a word about the Saints defense. Now, I get it. Like, he doesn't have 5,000 words to write on every team. But if you think the Saints are going to be better in 2022 than they were in 2021, and by the way, Peter King noted that he thinks the Saints will be a game better this year than they were last year. That would put them at 10-7, which when Terrio and I sat here a couple weeks ago and did our game-by-game projections, when the schedule came out, I picked the Saints 10-7. Now, the caveat is I do reserve the right to change my mind for the better or worse, depending on how things go up until the open of the season. But with what we know about the roster right now and how the schedule plays out, I do like them to be a game better than they were a year ago and to be 10-7 and to be a playoff team. But I will say, when you look at Peter King's rankings, he's got Buffalo as the best team in the NFL. Pull this up, Taylor. We'll follow along. He's got Buffalo as the best team in the NFL, number 1. The number 2 team that he has in the NFL after Buffalo are the Chargers. Interestingly, because the Chargers went 9-8 a season ago and missed the playoffs. But he has the Chargers, after missing the playoffs, as the number 2 team in the NFL. After the Chargers, he's got Kansas City, which lost in the AFC Championship game, and that's just been their birthright, really, for the last half-decade, is being in the AFC Championship. The Rams, who won the Super Bowl, he has as 4. Keep in mind, that's the number 1 team he's got out of the NFC. So he's got the Rams at 4, Green Bay at 5, so that would be the second best team in the NFC. Tampa at 6, so they would be third in the NFC. The reigning AFC champ, the Cincinnati Bengals, he has 7th. Baltimore 8th, which finished with a losing record last year, by the way, at 8-9. But he's got Baltimore 8th. Philadelphia 9. That's the biggest surprise to me. Philly was in the playoffs last year, and they lost to Tampa in the wild card round. I am just not a believer in Jalen Hurts as a elite starting quarterback in this league. We'll see. San Francisco 10, and then, as we mentioned, he's got the Saints as the 11th best team in the NFL, followed by Tennessee at 12. So when you look at the teams that Peter King ranks ahead of the Saints, I'm not so sure that each one of those doesn't have questions as big as those in New Orleans. He's got the Rams as the 4th best team in the NFL and the best in the NFC. Well, the Rams saw Andrew Whitworth retire, Von Miller go to Buffalo, Odell Beckham is still a free agent, and as our dear producer here, Muso, reminded us all of last year, the Rams are frauds, weren't they? Now, they won the Super Bowl. So, I mean, stay hot, Muse. I mean, dude, they won the Super Bowl.
Blind squirrel.
Okay,
Blind
sure.
squirrel, yeah.
Through the NFL 17-game season and the postseason, blind squirrel.
Blind squirrel.
Okay. Do they have a Super Bowl hangover? I think all of those are very legitimate questions about the Rams. Green Bay, number 2. I get it. It's Aaron Rodgers. It's still Aaron Rodgers, but who's catching the ball from Aaron Rodgers this year? You kind of assume Aaron Rodgers will figure it out, but how? Devontae Adams not being there is a major deal in Green Bay. Tampa Bay, if you're going to ding the Saints for losing Sean Payton, don't you have to ding Tampa for Bruce Arians not being there? I mean, I'm only half joking when I say that, but I think Tampa has serious questions that they'll have to answer. Yes, Tom Brady's back. How effective is he at 45 years old? Probably the same as he was last year when he led the NFL and everything, but to be determined. I don't at all understand how he has Philadelphia as the 9th best team in the NFL. I get it, they were in the playoffs a year ago. I don't get at all how they're the 9th best team in the NFL. So Devontae Smith, obviously made the receiver trade as well to bring in A.J. Brown, but I don't get it with Philly. And then San Fran is very likely starting Trey Lance this year. None of us have seen Trey Lance do a single solitary thing in his NFL career. I mean, maybe they keep Jimmy Garoppolo and it's a really expensive insurance policy, but if they're committed to moving forward with Trey Lance as their starter, I don't know how you just assume that Trey Lance is going to be a guy. So I do like New Orleans. I do think they're a playoff team. I think Peter King is right. I don't know if the Saints are a Super Bowl team. That will clearly be determined based on how ready Jameis Winston is to take that next step to being an elite quarterback in the NFL and if he's able to do it. But they have surrounded him with the weapons to do it. They have a veteran play caller. Pete Carmichael has called plays 3 seasons for the New Orleans Saints. In each of those 3 seasons, the Saints were top 5 in offense. And the guy who's been the architect of this defensive turnaround is still there. So the Saints have far fewer questions than some of the other even NFC teams ranked ahead of them on this list. But Peter King and I are aligned on one thing, is that the Saints are a double-digit win team and they're a playoff team in 2022. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.